I made a big mistake by moving out of my parents' house before I had enough money for my own place. I was really determined to do this for months, constantly looking at ads for affordable apartments and roommates. Moving out became my top priority, and I went all in on the plan. I finally found a post on Facebook advertising a room for rent in my neighborhood after a long search. The place had 2 bedrooms, and the owner, Alex, needed someone for the second room. I messaged Alex on Facebook, and he replied quickly. After a short conversation, he sent me a long list of rules for moving in. It was all common sense stuff, and I agreed to everything. He allowed me to check out the place on the same day. When I entered the apartment, it felt amazing. It was super clean and well decorated, like a show home. The interesting part was that Alex, the owner, was a bit strange. Despite the fancy house, he wore a dirty t-shirt and spoke in a peculiar way. He seemed different from what I expected. But I was so excited about moving out that I didn't mind his unusual behavior. A week later, I packed all my things into a rented van and drove to the new house. When I walked in, I was surprised because it looked empty, with no furniture or decorations, except for an old couch in the living room. It seemed like a completely different place than what I had seen before. Alex, my roommate, was there, and acting like everything was normal, excited to have me as a roommate. I asked him about the missing furniture, but he didn't give me a clear answer and just started helping me move my stuff in. As the weeks passed, I hardly saw Alex. He was always busy with work and would come home late at night. After about a month, I noticed he wasn't coming home most nights. Maybe once a week, around 2 or 3 a.m., he'd come in, stay for a short time, and then disappear again for another week. I didn't mind having the place to myself, but I started wondering what he was doing. He was the one who wanted me to move in, and now he's hardly ever around. Late one night, after not seeing Alex for weeks, he suddenly started banging on my bedroom door at 2 a.m., yelling my name. I got up really fast and went to the door. Alex was there, sweating a lot and speaking angrily, telling me not to leave my room. He grabbed the door from me and slammed it shut. I was really surprised, but I couldn't help being curious. I opened the door quietly and heard him moving something heavy into the garage after a few seconds. I quickly went downstairs to check it out. There was mud and dirt on the kitchen floor, leading to the garage. I tried to open the garage door, but it was locked from the inside. I decided to leave and hurried to my car, calling the police on the way. When the police came, Alex had already left, and the muddy path he took was gone too. After a few days of searching, it turns out Alex wasn't the real owner of the house I was staying in, and I wasn't allowed to be there legally. The documents he gave me were all fake, and his name might not even have been Alex. He never returned after that night. I'm not sure what Alex was doing, but it was definitely something wrong. He made me stay in my room that night, and then he vanished suddenly. I managed to avoid something really bad. But what really bothers me is why he was so insistent on me moving in with him. It feels like he had some shady plans for me, and I narrowly escaped without finding out what they were. In the weeks after Alex left, I felt like someone was watching me. Even though he wasn't around, it felt like he was still there in the empty rooms. I got curious about the house's history and did some investigating. And wow, did I find something big? The house had a scary past. A crime happened there, and the person who owned it before disappeared mysteriously. People in the area talked about sketchy things that went on, and I started to see a connection. Alex, the landlord, wasn't just strange. He was mixed up in some shady stuff. That locked garage he never let anyone into. I think it held some serious secrets. I decided to talk to the neighbors because I thought they might know something about what was going on. But turns out they didn't know any more than I did about Alex's strange behavior. However, an old lady who lives nearby shared something surprising. She said she saw strange lights and heard weird noises coming from Alex's house before I even moved in. Putting everything together, I realized something scary. Alex purposely chose me to be his neighbor, thinking I wouldn't notice what he did at night. The empty house, strange hours, and secretive garage were all part of his plan. But something scared him that night. When he angrily told me to stay in my room and quickly cleaned up, it showed he wasn't as slick as he thought. As everything became clear, I felt both relieved and scared. I barely dodged getting caught up in the bad things Alex was involved in. The police kept trying to find answers, but Alex disappeared without a trace, leaving us with only questions and a creepy feeling in the house that used to be so nice. Thinking about it now, I learned a tough lesson. Leaving a place might feel like total freedom, but sometimes even beautiful houses hide terrible secrets you wouldn't want anyone to deal with. After I finished school, I lived with my big brother for 4 years in an apartment. We split the rent because neither of us had enough money to pay for it alone. But in the 4th year, my brother got a better job and wanted to move out when our lease ended. I couldn't afford the apartment by myself, so I looked for someone to share it with online. It was hard to find a roommate because I didn't have much money to offer. When our lease was almost up, my brother had almost taken all our things out. I felt stressed to find a new place fast, but it was really hard to find one I could afford. Then I found Evan, who was renting a room in their house. I messaged Evan, and we planned to talk. Evan said I could use all the other rooms too. It sounded good, so I said yes. A few weeks later, I packed all my things into a U-Haul truck and drove to Evan's house. He had sent me pictures of the house, but I hadn't seen it in real life yet. The house looked small, but nice. When I got there, Evan welcomed me in the garage. He showed me around and helped me bring in my stuff. He seemed okay, but he was a little quiet. I started unpacking and arranging my room. Everything seemed fine until I saw something weird. The lock on my bedroom door was on the outside. I didn't understand why. I asked Evan about it, and he seemed surprised. He said he hadn't noticed and promised to fix it the next day. I didn't think too much about it and went to bed. Late at night, I woke up because I heard noises in the kitchen. I thought it was my friend Evan, maybe getting a drink. Then, I heard someone stop outside my door and lock it. I got really scared because I realized Evan had locked me in. I shouted for him to open the door, and he hurried to unlock it, saying he did it because he was worried about his safety since he didn't know me too well. I felt really scared and mad, but I stayed for the night and decided I'd leave in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed awake on the couch, waiting for morning. When it came, I peeked to see if Evan was still sleeping before hurrying to take back the U-Haul. But when I got home, Evan wasn't there. I packed my things fast, feeling nervous, and tried to leave. Evan stood in my way, trying to make me stay in the truck. I pushed past and got away, driving off quickly. I stayed with my brother until I found a new place. But what went down with Evan was puzzling and kept bothering me. A lot of time went by, and I got used to my new home. I almost forgot about the weird thing that happened with Evan. Then one evening, I got a text from someone I didn't know. It said, "Hi, it's Evan. Can we chat?" I felt surprised. What did Evan want now? After thinking a bit, I messaged back, asking what he wanted to talk about. He replied really fast, saying he wanted to explain what happened before and said sorry for what he did. He asked if we could meet up to talk in person. I wanted to hear what he had to say, so I said yes to meeting him at a nearby coffee place the next day. When I got there early, I felt both nervous and curious. Evan came, seeming a bit worried. He said sorry a lot and told me he was having a really tough time lately. He told me he'd been feeling really paranoid and anxious, which made him behave strangely. Evan said he felt really stressed about having someone he didn't know in his house, even though he was renting out the room. He said locking my door was his way of trying to deal with his worries, even though he knew it wasn't the right thing to do. When he talked, I could feel that he was really sorry and really wanted me to understand. He said he felt really bad about what he did and promised he was getting help to handle his worries better. I was amazed at how honest he was. It was obvious that Evan really wanted to fix things. He said sorry in a very sincere way, and even said he might do something nice for me to make up for what happened. I understood why Evan was having a hard time, so I forgave him, and felt both relieved and sorry for what he was going through. We said goodbye on good terms, and I felt better knowing there was a reason behind the strange things that happened. It was a learning experience for both of us. I learned how complicated people's problems can be, and Evan realized it's important to get help for mental health issues. Even though it was weird and unsettling, it showed me how important it is to be kind and try to understand others when things get strained. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. Moving to Bartlesville, Oklahoma was a really big deal for me. I took a chance for a job, and it turned out even better than I thought. But getting used to my new home was a bit chaotic. Moving my things was fine, but the first few nights in the house were scary. I even thought about leaving during the first week. On my first day, I mainly focused on getting everything ready. I called the gas company and arranged the Wi-Fi, just the important stuff. It took a while, and by the time I finished, it was late. I quickly heated up dinner in the microwave, and that's when things got strange. I thought I saw something moving outside the kitchen window. I thought it might be because I was in a new house, but it still felt really strange. Later at night, after I finished eating, I went around my house. I made sure all the doors were locked and the lights were off. I tried to sleep, but suddenly, loud banging noises woke me up. It sounded like someone was hitting my front door really hard. I felt scared and looked through the little door viewer, but I didn't see anyone outside. At first, I thought it might be a joke, but things didn't stop there. Late at night, as I was trying to sleep, loud noises suddenly came from the wall behind my bed. I shouted at whoever was making the noise to stop, and strangely, it did. I couldn't sleep after that. I stayed awake in the living room, unpacking my things. The next day, I went to buy groceries and met the cable guy. I told him about the strange noises, hoping he knew what was going on. He said that, before the house was sold, people who didn't have a place to stay sometimes hung around here. It wasn't comforting, but it did explain the noises. That night was really scary. I fell asleep while watching TV on the couch. Suddenly, I woke up to a sound like someone scratching the door and jingling keys. It felt like someone was trying to get inside the house. I got really scared and quickly ran to the door, pushing hard against it. The person outside stepped back, and I locked the door while yelling that I'd call the police. I called them right away, but when they arrived, there was nobody there. The police thought it might have been someone who used to stay there without permission, but they couldn't figure out how they got a key. Thankfully, that was the only time it happened. After that scary night, it seemed like word got around that someone was living there, and nobody tried to break in again. As time passed, I got to know some neighbors. Mrs. Ramirez next door was really friendly. She told me the old owner had issues with unexpected visitors, but she said things had calmed down lately. It was nice to know I wasn't alone in that. One evening, I was chilling on the porch after a tiring day. That's when I met Mr. Jenkins, who lived a few houses away. He was friendly, talking about the area and the local community center. While we chatted, he told me a weird story about a stray cat that used to cause trouble in the neighborhood at night. It scratched doors and made noises, and some folks thought it was something scarier. I started thinking, could the noises be from a cat? Maybe it wasn't someone trying to break in, but a playful cat causing all the fuss. It seemed funny, but it made sense. So I decided to put a camera near the door, just to be safe. For a few days, everything was normal. I felt calmer. But one night, I heard the scratching sound again. I got worried, but then I remembered the camera. I checked the video, and guess what? There was a big fluffy cat at the door, making those strange sounds. It was the stray cat Mr. Jenkins talked about. I felt so much better and laughed when I figured it out. I placed a bowl of food for a cat outside. The scratching noise stopped, and every night after that, a nice stray cat came by. It was the one causing all the trouble. It was odd but funny,